This is Tell Me What to Read, powered by Booktopia. I'm Nick Wasiliev, and today we sit down for another YA and Middle Grade spectacular. Fans of YA and fantasy, this one is for you. In today's episode, Sarah McDuling sits down with Tanya Hennessy to discuss her latest book covering the adventures of Lunchbox Productions' Spotlight Please, It's Stevie Louise. Then, in our second interview, Sarah heads into a world of deadly unicorns and fearless riders as she chats with A.F. Steadman on her debut novel, Skandar and the Unicorn Thief. Check the show notes below for timestamps for each interview, and if you enjoy our content, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts, a like on Spotify, or wherever you are listening to our show. Now, over to Sarah's interview with Tanya Hennessy, author of Spotlight Please, It's Stevie Louise, which you can purchase in the description right now from booktopia.com.au.
I'm Sarah McDuling, Kids and YA Category Manager at Booktopia, and I am pretty giddy with glee today to be sitting across from the amazing Tanya Hennessy. Tanya, hello.
Hello.
I timed that perfectly.
No, I got water in my mouth. I feel like if you're not writing kids' books, then you're a bit not lunatic. You're not a lunatic. What are you doing? You know what I mean? I think to have water in your mouth to start an interview is bloody mint.
We want you to be well hydrated here.
So true. It's a Booktopia sort of necessary. Must be hydrated.
Well, you are here today to talk to us about Book 2 in your Stevie Louise series, Spotlight Please, It's Stevie Louise.
Yes.
For all the people listening, could you just tell them a little bit about what they can expect in this second book in the series?
Well, you could do it. You've read it. No, I'm kidding.
I could.
No, I'm kidding. Although I'd kind of like to hear it from your perspective. Because not many people have read it now. So I always
I can do it. Do you want me to
Oh my God, I would kind of live. Because I know I've been sitting with it for like a year. So it's kind of cool to hear.
Here's
please.
me. I, Sarah McDuling, not the author of this book, will tell you about what
I feel like I was being really facetious, but now I'm like, oh my God, please.
No, I'm ready.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Go.
Okay, in this book, you can expect a return of Stevie Louise and the Lunchbox crew.
Correct.
They are taking on a talent quest so that they can earn enough money to keep their production going. And you'll have lots of laughs. You'll have lots of funny moments. You'll have some really heartwarming friendship moments and some lessons to learn.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. She's good. You'd almost think she works somewhere in YA or junior fiction or children's books. Or, you always think she does this full time. But yeah, it's literally just like a return to the insanity that is the world of Stevie and her friends. I think it's better written, to be honest. I think I've gone away and done some writing school, which I have, and I've learnt more about story and narrative and more satisfying endings, and I feel like the characters evolve in this, particularly Alex, which is a male character who's very over the top, and he sort of starts out a little bit naughty, and he has this really redemptive storyline, which took me a while to figure out how to write that without sort of doing too many stereotypical storylines or things that had been done before. And, he's a queer character, and I didn't want to have that tripe of his dad doesn't show up for him enough, so he's rebelling. I didn't want to have that. I think it's 2022. I think we've evolved past that storyline.
Yes.
So how can we still have him revolting and being a bit naughty without that tripe? Or trope, is the word trope?
I mean, you could also say that trope is tripe.
Oh, okay, right. So, I'm still learning. The English language is, I wouldn't say it's second to me, but it's the old trope.
The trope is tripe.
The trope is tripe. But yeah, I think, and then I have a character in a wheelchair, so working out, and there's lots of tropes with characters in wheelchairs, which I learned through writing and learning, and I've read a lot about writing for characters in wheelchairs, and one of the tropes, not tripes, is that I'm so embarrassed, especially on a literature podcast.
Oh my gosh!
No, I'm a real reader. I'm a real writer. I'm a real reader, cross hybrid. shit. But, what are the tropes? Oh, shit! For people in wheelchairs and writing for them is that people write them like they're superheroes or they're always really nice or they're victims or they're... And I was like, yes, I consciously will not write that character for Trixie. So I feel like I learned a lot writing this book.
I think, well, first of all, I think it's important that authors should always feel that the book they've just written is better than the one before. Otherwise, how do you keep going, right?
Oh my God, so true. Imagine if you're like, this next one is shit, but please get it.
Real dive down in quality in this one.
It's real poor. It's some of the worst work you've ever seen.
Hopefully the next one will be a little bit better.
Fingers crossed. You know what I mean? It's a real dive down. And
I
really
can
phoned it in.
confidently say that that's not the case here. It's not the case here at all. It's interesting to hear from your point of view, writing the book, that you feel that this one is like, you're more confident about this one.
Yes. Sometimes I read the first one back and I go, oh, it's okay, but this second one's a banger. Do you know what I mean?
It's common, right? I think that's common with authors. The book you've just written is your favourite book, and everyone before that, you can't read it because all you see is the mistakes you want to fix.
Oh, yes.
So I think we hear that time and time again. So you're very much, that's a very thing that we hear from authors quite a lot. But as a reader, I would say that the quality is amazing and even. Like, I think that this is a great sequel. I think that it delivers on the promise from the first book. The first book was lovely, wonderful, one of my favourite books in the junior fiction space. And I was really looking forward to seeing Stevie Louise again. And I thought that the way that you moved some of these characters onward in their journey, like particularly the friendship between Stevie Louise and Addison, which was more of a rivalry in book one, and has now become quite a touching friendship.
Girlfriend friendship, like they're just besties.
Yeah. Can we talk about Stephen-O's?
Okay, so Stephen-O's, Stevie, look, when I first wrote the first one, people were like, is Stephen you? Is Stevie you? And Stephen is the nickname people give Stevie. So, normally men might be Stephen and then they're Stevie. But she's Stevie and people go, oh, Stephen. And it's just like an in-joke amongst their friends and family, and it's silly. Even the teachers call her Stephen. And it's funny because she's like this 12-year-old girl being called Steve. It's just funny. And so she's a bit of an entrepreneur. And look, when I first wrote this book, people would be like, a Stevie you? And I would say, no. But the more I write, the more I go, maybe she is. Because, I don't know, I feel like for a long time I was like, I'm not a good writer if I write from my own experience. But then I think like Ricky Gervais is one of the best television writers of all time. And he writes from experience, so maybe it's not that bad. But yeah, look.
Write what you know, they say.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, I used to eat dry cereal. Did you do that too?
Yes.
I was obsessed. I was obsessed with Nutri-Grain dry. When I finished school, that's all I wanted to eat. And so Stevie, she's a bit of an inventor. She started this theatre company. She's, in her mind, a genius. So she's come up with this invention called Stephen-O's, which is it's Nutri-Grain, Cocoa Pops, Fruit Loops and cornflakes in one Tupperware container that she's decided are called Stephen-O's. So it's just her invention and her little stress eating snack that she has after school. And she's gotten Addison into it. And it's just sort of one of those little quirky things that I thought it would be fun for kids to recreate Stephen-O's if they wanted to at home. It wasn't too expensive. It's not cheap, but you know what I mean? It's sort of easy to do. It's not like something where they needed to get some ingredient from some world.
It's a fairly simple recipe.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to make. It's not super messy. But also I just like the idea that Stephen's always got something going on in her head that she wants to get out into the world. She's a really creative person who has ideas and then actions them. And I think that's a really cool story that we haven't really seen in any sort of narrative. We don't see really ambitious girls particularly going, I've got an idea, I'm going to execute it, and that's going to be the story. And that is the story of Stephen having an idea and making it happen, and then making it happen over and over again, despite her challenges.
I thought that it must be interesting. Disclaimer, everyone who's listening to this, we were chatting before the podcast, and you mentioned that, when you write the first book, you have to set up all the characters and you have to go to a lot of effort to explain to the readers who they are. But then in book two, you kind of can't do that again. So what was it like? Was that challenging for you to...
Oh, I was so excited. I feel like the first one, I was like, the second chapter, I was like, here's all the characters, now let's get into it. You know what I mean?
So it's better not
It's
having
way
to
better
set
because
up.
it's like all that exposition is done.
Yeah.
theoretically we know the base of these characters, so now let's go, yes, and what else? So Alex is this and he's this, and here's his brother and here's his other brother and here's his dad and here's his family situation. So it was just like taking this little world and then growing it. Yes. And, we can really see, because they all live in a cul-de-sac, and what this cul-de-sac looks like, and the families that live there, and the behind the scenes of just the kids. So you see the family and why their family are the way they are. And Alex's mum passed away from breast cancer, and that kind of realness is, I think, something that's was really important to me when telling a sort of this kind of story. My best friend lost her mum of breast cancer, so it was a bit of a tribute to her. But it was like jumping straight into character is the best. That's why we watch TV series.
Yeah.
It's like this is probably, the first one was more character fueled, whereas the second one is story fueled and character fueled. So I don't know, I'm just like buzzing about this, and I'm buzzing that you've like read it.
That was a joy to read. I was so looking forward to getting my hands on it.
Like that means so much to me. I'm so like humbled by that, and just like, I feel like I've done so many great things in my career, and I'm so grateful to have had the life I've had. But Stevie's like everything to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your heart's really in these books. I think you can tell it when you read them that they come from the heart. Mm-hmm. And there's so much humour, and like, I can't tell you how much. Oh, I should mention as well, I'll keep it spoiler free, but this is the best first chapter of a kid's book that I can remember reading in a very long time. It starts so amazingly.
It's a good start. Because I wrote
really
it just
great.
like, because I was like, I'll just write one chapter because I can't help myself. The publisher didn't ask for it.
Really?
Do you know what I mean? Like I signed a 2-book deal, but like they didn't ask for it, so I was like sitting around. It was during lockdown again, and I was like, oh, I've got this idea. Wouldn't it be funny if Alex was, spoiler alert, in a hospital? But why he's there, I'll leave to you to read.
People are going to imagine it's for such a serious reason.
Oh, I know. I know. And I rewrote that chapter multiple times with the dad come. Anyway, look, it's a ridiculous opening, but it just like, when people go, it came to me. It genuinely did. It came to me.
Like a bolt of lightning.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. And then once I'd written this first chapter, I was like, oh my God.
It's so good.
And then I just like fell into it again, and then came out 3 weeks later, and I was like, oh God, I've written another book. Now that sounds really unrelatable. Like if I was listening to this, I'd find it unrelatable if it hadn't have happened to me. But when I say like, I feel like I'm put on this earth potentially to have written this, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this falls out of me, and it's like, it can't have fallen out of me if I wasn't meant to write it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know where it's coming from. I feel like it's like channeling. I'm not saying it's excellent. I'm just saying that's what happened. Like I'm not going, oh, I've written.
That's my job. I'm saying it's excellent.
No. But like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh crap, that just fell out of me. Cool. How exciting that I'm able to have these creative ideas and put pen to paper. But the most exciting thing is like I've ever written with a pen and paper. It's on a laptop. But that people care about it, want to buy it. Like that's nuts to me. It's nuts.
I think it's so beautiful. What would be the best feedback you ever had from a young writer? Like when you hear from the kids?
Stevie's me. I've never read a book with me in it before. Like Stevie reminds me of me, or Stevie's got the same personality as me. Stevie's a bit anxious. It's never diagnosed or written there, but she's got, she's an overthinker. She's over analytical. She's very nervous. She's she doesn't,
highly strung.
Yeah, she doesn't live in the moment.
Yeah.
She's thinking forward or thinking, she's like, what did that just happen? But to hear other kids be like, oh, I put on shows in my backyard and, I do that, or Stevie's like me, or Luke is like me, or I have a friend who's Alex, or my mum is like the mum, or...
Oh, the mum is so good.
The mum just... There's this one line where the mum is like, I can't with you kids today, I'm having wine and cheese. You know what I mean? It's just like...
And her meals that she comes up
she can't cook. The mum can't cook. So she's like, oh, here's a sausage roll with apricot jam. And the kids are like, it's fine. Just don't put the jam on it. She's like, the jam's the best part. Like the mum's a mentor. Like she's so funny. But she's like going through this phase. This mum is going through this like, midlife crisis, but she's dealing with it with moo-moos and...
goddess
crystals and goddess parties. And I guess like there's this message in that to be like, you're always just going to go through phases as a woman.
Yeah, we never stop coming of age. We just, until we die.
Yeah, and so it's just constantly coming of age. And so Stevie's going through a phase, but the mum's going through a phase, and her mum's probably going through a phase.
And we haven't even spoken about Twerk It.
Twerk It, the grandma, exactly. Well, she's definitely going through a phase. Stevie's grandma's in a twerking grandma
dance
hip-hop group. She's doing WAP. No, she's not WAP, but she's doing like a Snoop Dogg, performance in a rhinestoned outfit.
So good.
It's
We
just
should
silly.
talk about the illustrator.
Oh my God, Lee Hedstrom.
Yeah.
She's nuts, isn't she?
These are such good illustrations. They really leap off and they complement the story so well. Such a match made in heaven.
Oh my God, isn't it? I saw her on Instagram and I was like, I've got to have this woman. And then they reached out to her. Because I don't know, the relationship between illustrator and author is a really interesting one. You're not meant to be super close because I don't know why.
They keep them separate.
They keep us separate.
So you each have your own creative process.
Yeah, which I respect and love because, you want the artist to feel what they feel and create what they create. And I didn't want to be too prescriptive, which is obviously what the publisher wants and the artist wants as well. But she's just, I've never worked with somebody ever and felt so intrinsically aligned with ever. And I've worked with so many people in my life and so many, I'm 36 this year. I've worked so many jobs, have lived so many lives.
So many creative people.
So many.
Yeah.
But she sent me these first drafts and I was like, this is better than whoa. She's just so aligned with Stevie and she loves the kids and she loves the books and she's I couldn't have done this without her vision. I love her brain.
It is real chef's kiss,
isn't
illustrations. Sometimes it really does feel as though it's all from the same brain. So it's an amazing concertina.
And we've never met, she lives in
to me.
Cairns and I live in Sydney, so we've never met, but we do talk a lot. Sometimes it's about Stevie, sometimes it's just random stuff.
Oh, that's cute.
But yeah, she's a true one-of-a-kind artist. And I said to her, because I'm doing the Sydney Writers' Festival, I said, I've asked for you to come, but, they don't have enough budget or, whatever the reason is, I don't, maybe she was unavailable. She was like, I don't want to go, Tanya, you want to, you're fine with being in a crowd. I'm an artist. I just want to create.
She wants to be away from it all. Yeah.
And I was like, here's me going, let's get Lee down and celebrate her and let's put her in a dress and let's put Stevie shoes on her. And she's like, please don't.
Please leave me in my studio.
She's like, please don't. Oh my God. I've probably given her this panic attack. But from my side, I was like, I want everyone to see how amazing you are. And just I want you to see these kids and I just want you to be clapped and applauded for your amazing work. And she's I'm so grateful to have her. I can't imagine writing any more kids' books without her. It's really going to suck for her because she's only ever going to work with me. No, I'm kidding. No, she does heaps. She does so much stuff.
I just feel that this series, the characters of the kids come through so well in the writing alone that if the illustrations weren't there, you'd still have such a obviously strong idea of who they are. And then she comes along and just brings them to life, and it's really perfect. Oh my God, I'm just going to say again to anyone, if you haven't read the first book, drum roll please, it's Stevie Louise, now is a great time because there's now going to be 2 books.
Yes.
And are you allowed to tell us, maybe it's too soon or maybe you're not allowed to say, but can we look forward to more Stevie Louise?
I hope so. I've already started to write the 3rd one.
Yes.
I don't know if I love the opening. I might change.
Well, you've set yourself a pretty high benchmark with the opening.
I know, and this one's not as good. This 3rd one is look, if we do get a 3rd one, I'll tell you that Stevie's never really had a romantic interest. It's never been about that, which I really wanted it to be a series that didn't, I loved Moana. Because Moana was not a love interest.
Not about that.
And it was a fierce story about this girl who was young, who just had an idea and made it happen and saved it. I loved Moana.
It's beautiful.
And it was such an inspiration for me.
But, Stevie is of an age.
She's of an age.
When romantic complications sort of start.
Yes. And maybe the romance doesn't come from her, but somebody else being I'm really interested in you, and her having to go, well, I'm a businesswoman, so I don't know. So we might have a little bit of and then maybe Addison. What might happen? I don't know. But it's
it sounds delicious. I can't wait.
Just fun. It's so fun. And in the Stevie books, there's no COVID, there's no war, there's no famine, there's no
thank goodness
sadness. It's there's stakes and there's something at stake for these kids. But it's yes, it's real, and it's domestically set. It's
and there is. You're right. There's high stakes for these kids.
For children, yeah.
Yeah, for children.
There
not on world current events high stakes.
But then for them there really is, and it's sort of like I love escaping to the world of Stevie because there's nothing bad there, you know, and there's no phones and there's no. That was an active choice. I think phones ruin story.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would put phones in the same bucket as all of the nasty current events that I just don't want to see in my kids' fiction.
Me too, yeah. And like, there's little bits, you know, like they go, oh, you know, so-and-so's on TikTok. So like
it's not like a world without phones. They're just not on them all the time.
No.
They're too busy.
They're too busy. And you know, I've met multiple kids who don't like the phones. Yeah, there's some kids who are obsessed, but I've met multiple kids who are like, no, it's not really for me.
I keep waiting for the Luddite revolution. I mean, I'll be in trouble because I work at an online company, but like, eventually I feel like it's going to swing that way. People are just going to get sick of staring at screens.
It will happen. Yeah. It's already happening. Because like these kids I've met don't like it. And it's like, I went out with
youth don't like technology.
Well, not all of them, but I went out with some kids for New Year's Eve. They're my friends' kids. And I was like, why aren't you guys on your phones?
Like, that's so uncool.
Yeah,
Tanya.
they were like, we're trying to engage and just be present. I was like, oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love
They're
that.
15, so a little bit older.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's hope for the future. It's good to know.
Yeah. It's weird because I feel like I have such a, you know, I think all of us have like a love-hate relationship with online. Like I wouldn't have a career without it.
Totally dependent.
I feel like I learn so much on the internet, but I'm also like, it makes me sad and anxious and competitive and, you know,
it's a tightrope, really.
Oh, it's a tightrope. You don't know if you're going to fall off or stay on. And every day you're like, no, I'm going to do it again. Why?
Yeah. But as someone employed by an online retailer, I'm glad the internet exists.
Well, I use Booktopia. Like I was saying the other day, like, because I sometimes I get embarrassed about my weird book choices. And so, like, I find it easier to buy it online.
More privacy. You don't have to hand it to a salesperson who's going to judge you.
Sometimes if you buy, like, a weird, maybe like an influencer book, right?
Yeah.
They're like, really? You're not going to buy Shakespeare? You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I don't want to buy Shakespeare. I want to buy this weird influencer book. Don't judge me.
I already own the complete works of Shakespeare.
Yes, I do.
I contain multitudes.
Yeah. But that's sort of like, sometimes like I don't want to buy kids' books when I'm by myself. So I buy them on Booktopia because it's weird for me to buy. Like, I feel awkward going into a bookshop.
Oh, I think you should feel comfortable to buy kids' books. I feel like
it's just because I don't have kids, and so I feel like they're like, who are these for? Have you got some kids in a dungeon? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm like, my brain's too crazy to be in like a bookshop.
I feel like people would probably just assume they were for some kids in your life.
Oh.
So, some like friends' children.
Okay.
I don't think people think that Tanya Hennessy has children in a dungeon.
Well, I've only got 2, so... it's fine. No, but like, you know, you go, because I want to go in and sometimes, you know, you want to look at the shelf and stuff, but other times you go, okay, I really want to see a female, what do they have, you know, female heroine in like a, you know, so, and it's easy to find on Booktopia.
Well, Tanya, thank you so much for coming in. It has been a delight to talk to you as always. And for everyone listening, you can get your copy of Spotlight Please, It's Stevie Louise, and Drum Roll Please, It's Stevie Louise, at your local bookstore or online at Booktopia. Thanks for listening and never stop reading.
Before we head to our second book and second interview, we have a sponsored book for this week's episode, and that is Abracadabra by Robert Tissot. From the wonder of learning foreign languages to the words I'd wish I'd said, Abracadabra is brimming with the thoughtful, witty and humorous observations for which Tissot is known, and proves, once again, that his way with words is equally magical on the stage as it is on the page. Part memoir and personal record, Abracadabra is a work many years in the making, an engrossing collection of observations and ideas to remind us why we read. For pleasure, after all. You can order a copy of Abracadabra by heading to the link in the description as our sponsored book of the week. So now, over to Sarah's interview with A.F. Steadman, author of Skandar and the Unicorn Thief, which you can purchase right now in the description from booktopia.com.au.
Hi, I'm Sarah McDuling, and I'm super excited to be talking today with debut author A.F. Steadman about her brand new book, Skandar and the Unicorn Thief. Thanks so much for joining us today, A.F., or shall I call you Annabelle?
Annabelle's definitely fine.
Annabelle, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for asking me to come on.
Oh, look, I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm absolutely in love with this book and so excited for the series in general. But for everyone listening who may not have been lucky enough yet to have read Skander and the Unicorn Thief, can you tell them a little bit about what they can expect from this book?
Sure. So, Skandar and the Unicorn Thief is the first book in a new fantasy series set in a world of warrior unicorns, unlikely heroes, and elemental magic. Skandar Smith, who's the main character, is 13 years old, and he's always dreamed of becoming a unicorn rider. But when the most powerful unicorn in the world is stolen, Skandar and his friends have to master their elemental magic, uncover ancient secrets, and take on bloodthirsty unicorns to defeat a deadly enemy.
Speaking of bloodthirsty unicorns, the world you've created here, I mean, first of all, I love Skander. He's a great character. I think from page one, he's so likable and you're just on his side from the second the story opens. And you're thrust into this fascinating world with the unicorns depicted in a way I haven't really come across unicorns like this before. Where did the first sort of spark of inspiration come from for these like battle unicorns?
Thank you. I guess so. I had the idea about 8 years ago. It was kind of more of a visual idea, I guess. I'm quite a visual writer and reader. Like if I can't see it in my mind, I can't really write it. So I was walking back. I was commuting. I was doing my law exams at that point, I think. And I was just walking back from the train station, and I just had this image kind of came to my mind of a boy riding something, and I kind of played with the image a little bit, and it sort of resolved itself into what looked like a unicorn, but it wasn't the sort of unicorn that you would expect. And I think I've not really liked fluffy unicorn stuff. Like I think I've always been more of like a dragon person. So I think that I maybe subconsciously was kind of trying to move away from the kind of like friendly unicorn thing. And I also think, as I came back to the idea, about 3 years ago now, 4 years ago now, I kind of thought mythical creatures are really special because you can kind of make them anything you want because there's no real comparison you can make. So then I just had fun with it.
I love it. I consider myself a bit of a dragon person myself as well. Like I can't say that I've ever been that enamored of the unicorn myth, but you've really won me over in this series. Like I want my own unicorn. One thing I love about the unicorns in your book is that they all have these fantastic names that sound a little bit like racehorse names, but magical. So I guess I wanted to ask, was it tough coming up with so many unicorn names? And, if you had a unicorn, what would you name it?
That's a tricky one. So the names were like the first thing that I came up with. So when I saw that image, I had a notebook and I started writing down names. So I had loads and loads of these names. And I think I just was sort of focusing on them being kind of natural sounding, but also a little bit magical. And I think because at that point I wasn't like writing anything else or doing anything creative, I found it quite easy to come up with those names. I then lost the notebook for like all of that time, including when I started the first draft of Skandar. But I found it like a year. I found it like a year ago, just like in my flat. So I've got it back now. But yeah, and I think the idea was to make them almost sound like the unicorns could have named themselves. Like they don't, the riders in the book don't name their own unicorns. They kind of the unicorns almost like share their powerful names with them. So I wanted them, and I also wanted them to be able to have nicknames because some of the names are a bit long. So but my own unicorn name, it's so tricky. Well, I wouldn't deign to name one, but I've one of I think the American publishers sent out a little game where you could kind of it was your birthday and your date of I think your birthday and your favorite color, and I think mine was something like summer solstice's revenge or something, which I feel like that's quite cool.
I
That's quite
like
cool.
it.
Yeah.
You could call them summer for short.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, another element of the world that you've built here is that the riders and the unicorns are allied to a particular element. If you were a rider, do you feel that you would bend towards one element more than another?
I think there's quite a lot of earth wielder in me, for sure. Like, I'm quite a peacemaker. I like everyone getting on. I'm the one who would kind of offer the branch of friendship if there's an argument, because I don't like conflict. And I'm a big fan of kind of the natural world and things like that. But I think there's also like a kind of bit of fire wielder, with the creative, and I've got red hair, so I feel like that goes a little bit.
Fiery.
Yeah, I can't see myself as an air wielder, I have to say. I think I would love to be an air wielder and be kind of, soaring up to the sky, not caring about, when I'm going to come down, and being a little bit more affectionate about it. But I would mostly like to stay in with a book rather than go out to parties. So there we go.
I suspect I would be Earth too, although the proof I got of the book when I read it, they were such beautiful proofs, and they all had the different symbols of the different elements on the top of it. And I got a fire one, so.
Oh, it was very pretty, the fire one. Really
beautiful. So can we talk about the quartet?
Yes.
Because you've built such a great kind of squad for Skandar. He's got these three sort of, I don't know, teammates or quartet members, and the friendships that sort of develop over the course of the book and the dynamics of this group are just joyful to read. So I guess I just wanted you to talk a bit about those four characters and, who came to you first, or how you sort of put that squad together.
Yeah, sure. So Skandar was first because he was on the unicorn, for sure. But I knew that I wanted to write it in close third person, so he was going to be the kind of perspective you had, and I think the character you used for that kind of comes across in a particular way, and you have to work quite hard almost for them to be likable, because I don't know, you're in their head all the time, and you're kind of you have to have a personality as well as just be telling the story. But the first draft I did of the book was mostly like world building and characters rather than any plot whatsoever. And so the characters they kind of grew quite organically, I think, just because I wasn't putting pressure on myself for them to really be doing anything. So I think that helped me make their relationships work, and they're very similar to how they were. But yeah, Bobby came first because I felt like Skandar really needed help at the point that she appears in the book. And she's the kind of person, I think, she doesn't care what anyone thinks of her. She is very confident. She's quite competitive. She doesn't put up with any nonsense from anyone. And I think, having him meet her, and they're quite different. She's the kind of person that he needed at that point when they're outside the hatchery. And then I think the others, I wanted there to be someone who was not okay with Skandar being around, which is how I kind of invented Mitchell. And I knew that it wasn't his fault that he felt that way. Sorry, I'm trying not to do spoilers. It wasn't his fault that he felt that way, and I wanted to explore that kind of like parental influence on your own opinions, and how difficult that can be to overcome, I think. And then Flo came. I think she is the opposite, almost like Bobby's antithesis in terms of a character, and I wanted her to be a bit softer and a little bit more of a kind of ally, a true kind of ally for Skandar in terms of emotionally, because I think Bobby is a very practical kind of ally, but she doesn't always kind of care about feeling. So Flo was a little bit more of that, I want, she's also got her own story that kind of is going to run in parallel to Skandar's own experience as well. So yeah, they kind of balance each other out. And I didn't want them to kind of, the riders in the story, if you're a fire wielder, like you only hang out with the fire wielders. I wanted there to be a kind, they can do all the kinds of magic. They can't just do fire magic if they're a fire wielder. And I thought it would be more interesting to see them live together, being different elements, and like how those different personalities can feed into each other and help each other out and balance each other out, and kind of how working together is always better than just kind of going it alone.
Yeah, it was so well done, truly. And hearing you say that you had this whole early draft that was majority world building and character kind of gave me this image of you hanging out in the green room with your characters before it's time to write the book. And it's just, I feel like it must have really paid off because they're such vivid characters. Another thing I love about this book is that it manages to be this kind of high octane magical adventure packed full of humor and whimsy, and it's just like so much going on to make it like a fast-paced read. But you also don't shy away from approaching some really sort of relatable real life issues that many kids have to deal with. And I'll tread carefully here as well to just avoid spoilers. But you have a lot of home life and family situations going on with Skandar, and there's a character who has to deal with panic attacks, and there's another character who has a difficult family relationship, and all of that is balanced so well with like everything else that is going on. So I guess I just wanted to ask, how it was balancing all of that and juggling so many different things.
Yeah, I think because I looked at the characters first. I think I always wanted them to feel like real children. And I think as a reader, as a child, and even now I read, children's books is what I read really. I think it always makes a story, even when it's set in somewhere completely fantastical, it always makes it feel more like you could access it. And I love the idea, I've always loved that idea of like transitional worlds, or worlds where like the liminal places where you could kind of cross into them. And so I needed my characters to fundamentally feel like real people, which is why they deal with these real life problems, as you say, that children do face in day-to-day life. I think my editors really helped me with the balancing, because I think it's more it was balancing the world coming out with those things, because you have to get a lot of information on the page to be like, okay guys, so like unicorns are real and they're on this island and there's all this mythology that goes with it. But also, Skandar's dealing with very kind of real issues at home amongst that world, and it's kind of knowing what to hold back in terms of the fantastical stuff, in order for it to kind of feel like you can take that in, as well as like what's really happening in the characters' lives. I think as well, I mean, I wrote a lot of this, or redrafted it, I suppose, in the COVID lockdowns. And I think, thinking back on it now, a lot of the themes in the book kind of almost do weave into that a little bit, in terms of like, people weren't able to see their friends. Friendship's really important in it. Grief is an important theme. Mental health is an important theme. And families were separated. So I think that kind of thing did leak into my mind. And I was thinking in particular, kids are going through this right now. Like they are having these very real problems. And I guess I was escaping into this world that I was creating, and hoping, other people could as well one day, if anyone ever bought it.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed escaping into this world.
Thank you.
So this is book one in a series that is generating a lot of buzz. Like, before I read the book, I'd heard so much about the series, and I understand film rights are already sold. It sounds like a sort of epic journey to publication. I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about how it all came about.
Yeah, so as I said, so throughout kind of 2020, I was working with my agent on it. I only sent it to one agent because I had an agent before for an adult project, and it didn't sell, and they didn't really do children's. And so I experienced the opposite before Scandar of my book being out on submission and literally no one replying for like
Oh, wow.
9 months or something. So I lingered there. And so when my Sam Copeland, my agent, we were getting it ready to go, and it went out in September 2020, and I was full on ready for like nothing, radio silence, kind of 7 or 8 months, maybe like one editor might want to talk to me about it, and then within like, I think I got this email from my agent just saying after about a day saying like, can I have your mobile number? And I was just like, okay. And he was like, oh, just in case. And then he phoned me like immediately, and said, yeah, so this is going better than we thought. And yeah, so I had lots of offers. Like I think the first offer for the book, even though that publisher didn't end up like winning it in the auction, was just like, I think was probably one of the most emotional moments, because I knew at that point like someone was going to publish it, and I got to write more books in the series, and I was going to be able to stay writing in the world. And so I think it's funny, I always think back to that particular moment, because I think that was when I suddenly realized like someone wants this, someone's going to do something. And then so then we had over the weekend the film rights sold to Sony Pictures, which I kind of wasn't totally aware of it happening. And then my agent called me on the Monday saying, like, are you sitting down? I was kind of like, no. And then we had the book auction that week, kind of up to the Friday. And like the publishers kind of pitching and all that kind of thing. And it was just completely surreal. Like I literally couldn't believe it, particularly because of my previous experience. I think because it was all on Zoom, obviously, at that time. I think my mouth was just like so aching, because I was just like in the box, just like smiling like the entire time and just being like, what is happening? So yeah, so that's the kind of like up to the kind of who Simon & Schuster like bought it, which was amazing, and then it's been a case of editing since then, and writing book 2.
I'm so desperate to ask about book 2. I know you can't talk about it, but can you like tell us anything like about, do you know how long the series will be ultimately, like roughly?
Yeah, so I think the idea is that it will be, I mean, how I pitched it when it went out on submission was it would be five book series. And I think since then it makes a lot of sense because there are 5 elements. And you may have noticed, but the first book is quite tied to the fire element. And so, there's 4 more to go, and there's 5 years of training in the Eyrie as well. So it means that if the characters age up every year, they'll be kind of 18 when the series finishes.
Yes, they're going from hatchlings to fledglings.
Predators. Predators are the top ones.
Oh yeah, so, but what's the next one? What's book 2?
Next one's nestlings.
Nestlings, right? Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. It's like one of the blessings of this job is getting to read things a little bit early, but then you have to wait so long the next time. It's a good problem to have.
It's very much on the way. I think I'm the second round of edits now. So yeah, it's looking
exciting.
Really almost done.
Well, that was a wonderful story. It sounds like a dream come true. Thanks for sharing that with us. I just wanted to ask, it sounds as though you had the experience with your first book not getting picked up. What would your advice be to aspiring writers who might be experiencing some of that at the moment, who are struggling to maybe finish their first draft, or who have finished it and sent it out and not gotten much of a response?
I think it's really tough. It's really tough. I think if you haven't finished the draft, finish the draft. That would be my advice. It doesn't matter if it's not like perfect. If you get an agent and if you get an editor, it will change so much that, just get the core of the story down how you want it, and then and then see what happens. Because once you've got it in your hand, it's much easier to like play with it then. And also, until you've finished it and you've sent it to people, you're not really going to know, you're not going to know if it's viable, and you might want to do another project if it's not. But I think, yeah, not hearing anything back, and not having agents pick it up, because that happened to me a little bit with my first book as well. It's really hard. I think it's psychologically really difficult because it's something that you put so much work into, and you just want someone to kind of understand that. But I mean, I would say from my experience, don't give up, because I almost gave up on Scandal so many times. Like, it sat on my computer for a really long time. Because I wrote it at the same time as my adult book, but I just finished the adult one first, which is why I went out with that to agents. And Scandal just sat there for maybe a year and a bit, doing nothing. And I remember saying to my husband, I just don't know if this is a good idea. Is it good? I don't know. It could be completely kind of, off the wall. I don't. And he was just like, no, you love it. You love it. And I think if you really love a project, that comes out as well. I always felt more protective of the Scandal world than I did of my adult book, and I think there's something in that, in terms of if it's kind of what you really believe in. It's why I only sent it to one agent, because I was I didn't know if I could deal with the rejection of multiple agents. And luckily he liked it, but I was kind of I'm going to do this one at a time. So I think that's another piece of advice as well. If you find that hard, that process, don't send it out to 20 agents in one go. Send it out to maybe 2 or 3 at a time, and then they might have comments, because sometimes they're really nice. Even if they don't take it on, they might say, oh, if you just put a prologue on, then it'll look it'll be better. Or if you just maybe age the characters up or something like that, and then you can do that, and then you can send it fresh to a different agent. If those people don't want it. But I think having loads of rejections which totally happens, and it happened to me. I mean, God knows how many publishers rejected my adult novel, a lot. But they can be helpful even if they're rejecting you. And then if you are open to that feedback, then you can send it to someone who hasn't seen the previous draft and wow them. So but it's a long process. It can be long, but you'll get there in the end. I think that would be my advice.
I think that's excellent advice. So at the time of recording this, we're about a week or so away from the publication date for Scandal. I'm so excited for all of the kids out there to read this. I feel like this is going to be a book that a lot of, an informative book for a lot of kids, the book they glom onto, and get obsessed with and follow the series as each book is published. And I just wanted to ask, did you have books like that growing up? What were the books that you really were obsessed with as a young reader?
I read all the time. So I had a lot of books. I was very much veering towards fantasy. I used to go to the library and get 12 books out at a time. They gave me an adult limit library card, because I used to be but I can't choose, and they'd be fine, have 3 more. So yeah, I think one of the kind of I remember the big fantasy kind of reads that I loved when I was younger was so I was the kind of Christopher Paolini Eragon generation, and just read. It was quite a big book, I remember, and I just remember being so happy how long it was, and the kind of mythology of it. I also I came across Ursula K. Le Guin quite early, and I love the Earthsea books, and the kind of the magnificence of the dragons in those, and the world building is just you just feel you could go there, you could totally go to Roke and become a wizard. You could do that, and I loved that. And I also was a big fan of Tamora Pierce.
Oh my God, I love Tamora Pierce.
Yeah. Just the female strong characters, and I think I borrowed those from a friend who lived in Canada or something, because I'm not sure they weren't over yet or something, and I was kind of I don't want to give them back. Yeah, so, but I mean, there's so many great, I mean, there were loads of great fantasy books then, but there's so many great ones now. Like, I'm such a big Nevermore fan.
Oh,
I just
yes, I
remember
love
reading
Nevermore.
that book when it came out, and I was just like, oh, this is the best. This is what in it, that feeling of like that I had as a child, kind of getting that back, where you just like time just goes and you don't care, like you don't look up, you just want to be
It's
in the
completely
world.
immersed. Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah,
I love that about children's fiction, that you can completely fall into this world that's just full of wonder,
yeah.
and the goal of it is to fill the reader with wonder and delight,
Yeah.
and then some fear and some like high stakes,
And you've got to keep
and
them turning the pages. Yeah.
yeah, and the moral lessons in a children's book always speak just to the core of being human. Like, I think obviously, like obviously I don't read exclusively children's books, but I feel like if I weren't reading children's books, I would lose so much hope. I
Yeah.
feel like it just gives, having a job that has required me to read more children's fiction than I would normally, as a blessing, because I just feel like it's just a little injection of hope and wonder every now and then that you might not otherwise get.
Yeah, and it's like everything's going to be okay. Like in the
Yes,
end, everything's going to be
yes,
okay. Like even though it might be quite a long time and it might be quite scary and you might kind of come up against things, but in the
yeah,
end, you kind of know that you're going to make friends along the way and it's going to be all right.
yes. Well, Annabelle, we're out of time, sadly. I could keep talking for hours, but we can't, alas. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to meet you and wonderful getting to chat with you about this amazing book.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
And congratulations on the publication of your new book. It's shortly to come out into the world. Probably by the time this podcast is out, it will be out in the world.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it.
And for everyone listening, you can grab your copy of Skanda and the Unicorn Thief, which I highly recommend that you do as quickly as possible, at your local bookstore or online at Booktopia. Thanks for listening, and never stop reading.
Thanks to Tanya Hennessy and A.F. Steadman. You can find links to both books in the description below, or head over to booktopia.com.au. It's a good website. You should check it out. If you enjoyed our show today, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts or a like on Spotify and let us know what you think. Or if you're enjoying our show, you can subscribe to our channel and be notified whenever new episodes drop. Links in the description. We'll be on production break for the next week, commencing June 20th. However, I'm excited to announce that when we return the week commencing June 27th, episodes will now be going out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Join us on that first Tuesday, June 28th, as we sit down for a self-help podcast. We will get our finances in order with Jess Irvine and broaden our mind with Chelsea Pottinger. Until then, thanks for listening and never stop reading.